Hi, this is Nick Lalonde, your host of What's Next, making your third act your best act. Today you're going to hear from Scott Soape. Scott started his consulting company 26 years ago, where he assists small and medium-sized businesses with disputed and problemed payable accounts. What stuck out to me in my conversation with Scott is that he's not showing up for the money at this point in his career. Scott is 66 years old, and I asked him, what is he going to be doing 10 years from now? And he said he could still see himself working pro bono because people need his services. Be sure to listen in when Scott talks about where he finds community at this stage in his life. I hope that you'll enjoy my conversation with Scott as much as I did. I'm really excited because today we have Scott Soape on the show. Scott, how are you doing today?
Just great.
Now, you're in San Antonio, so like me, you had full totality, I believe, correct, in San Antonio earlier this week for the eclipse?
I'm on the west side, so 90%.
Okay. Pretty bizarre though, wasn't it? Did it get dark down there in San Antonio? I know here in Dallas it was completely pitch black.
The weather did not cooperate. It got dark, and we noticed some birds hitting to roost, right in the middle of it. But it was too cloudy to really see much of anything.
What a bummer. Well, maybe 80 years from now, you'll be able to see it again, right?
Yeah, right. Is it 8 or 20? I thought it was 20 years.
I have no idea when the next one's scheduled. I know I was talking to a guy that was 92 years old earlier this week. And I said, have you ever seen a total eclipse before? And he said, yeah, once 80 years ago. So
okay.
I kind of chalked it up like, hey, this was probably a once in a lifetime event, unless you're chasing total eclipses, which I know some people do.
Sure.
So Scott, I'm curious, would you mind, I know you have your own business. Would you mind telling the folks listening on the show a little bit about what you do as a career today?
Yeah, I assist companies with their disputed or problem payable accounts. I'll go in and help them either restructure payments with their commercial creditors or work out sometimes discounted settlements. It's really all depends on what my client wants. My client is always the debtor company. So my job is to try to get them the best deal. And I kind of, think of myself like a seller's agent, in real estate. I'm going in and I guess I should more like a buyer's agent in real estate. I'm going in and offering many times a lowball offer on a commercial debt for my client. I can't make the creditor company accept that. My job is to convince them it might be in their best interest as opposed to holding out for more.
Mm-hmm. How'd you get into that?
Oh, I've been doing this for over 26 years. As I recall, I had a friend who was an attorney that was handling these sort of things, dealing with people like me, and indicating that might be a good thing to get into at the time.
Do you ever think that 26 years later, you'd still be doing it?
Didn't really. And when I first started this, I had a financial consulting practice, and I was doing that full time. This was just a little side gig. And I discovered that I enjoyed this more. So I phased out, sold my financial consulting practice and concentrated on this full time.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you're enjoying what you're doing 26 years later. How old are you today?
66.
So you're 66. How has age played a factor in how you think about retirement?
Well, I think about it more. I have friends that are retired that are my age and younger. I have friends that are still working older than me. So I'm more aware of it. Not necessarily something I'm working towards. I'm happy with what I'm doing right now. There's no reason not to.
Mm-hmm. I'm hearing that more and more from people where they say, hey, I'm not necessarily working towards retirement. It's something I think about, right, as I climb up there in age. So I'm curious, let's crystal ball here for a minute. You wake up, you're 75. So 9 years from now, are you still doing what you're doing today?
I see myself doing it. Maybe a little slower pace. Even now, I kind of pick and choose what cases I want to work. I've slowed down a little bit, but I do see myself at 75 probably doing this same thing, possibly doing it pro bono for more clients than I do now.
Wow. So you would switch to even doing it pro bono. You enjoy it that much.
These a lot of these folks need the help. They don't know where to turn. A lot of these are smaller mom and pop companies that just have mismanaged their cash flow and got themselves in a bind, and it's not intentional. So they just need a little help. So I do this a little bit at low charge or no charge, but I could see possibly doing that more often.
And I talked to some people, Scott, who can't wait to retire, right? They're itching to retire. They're itching to, travel, play golf, go fishing all the time. Why is it that you could see yourself even doing this beyond 75, even pro bono, versus maybe living the typical retirement lifestyle that many think about?
I enjoy this, and I don't golf. I don't fish. I have, and I enjoy that a little bit too, but it's not a major hobby of mine. I don't have any special hobbies that take me away from work that I have to think about and make time for. We travel a little bit. We do day trips a little bit. We take time off. Um, I'll take days off. I'll take long lunches, just depending on what my schedule is. So I'm flexible enough right now where there's no really a reason to stop.
How many hours a week are you working in your business today?
And well, it probably still turns out to be 40, but I've worked more than that over the years. Depends on the week and the caseload and which cases I choose to work at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. But it sounds like you have a lot of autonomy, right? You may put in more hours one day, less hours one day. Is that right?
Yeah, I work from home, so it just kind of depends on how much time I want to spend in my office. I'll try to set up meetings if I can to go see clients and meet with them or meet with their creditors. So I've got enough flexibility, but yeah, some days longer than others, some weeks more busy than others.
I keep hearing though from my high achievers, especially the ones who have a lot of autonomy over their time, who really enjoy what they do. It seems like they don't really have a desire to ever stop doing what they're doing, as long as those two things are true. So they have freedom of time. The other thing that I think is important, though, in that I've identified with this demographic is typically they know when enough is enough, and they've reached the point of financial independence at some point where they're showing up to work because they want to, not because they have to. So for you, when you think about when is enough, are you already at the point where you're financially independent? Is there an age in mind where you think you'll hit that number?
Yeah, I could retire today and be comfortable enough. So that's not really a goal for me at this point. Age is not really a goal. I'm healthy. I stay fit, stay active. So there's nothing really keeping me from working. And as long as I enjoy it, I'm going to keep doing it.
If you didn't have work, where would you find purpose in your day?
I don't know. Um, I'd probably focus on my family more than I do, and we still have lots of family time as it is right now. Um, but split that a little more between my wife and family, and but I don't have any special desire not to be doing this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And are you working from home today, or do you go into an office somewhere?
Yeah, office at home. There's a dedicated office here in my home, so that's where I end up pretty much most of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious. I find a lot of my business owners, especially, they start to identify with their work. And if you ever were to leave work, I think that can be a really an emotional journey. Separate going from working to now not working. And one question that we always encourage our clients to ask themselves is when you think about uh, work, or excuse me, when you think about your work, what does it provide you other than money and financial security? And so for you today, it sounds like you enjoy it. It sounds like you get some purpose from it. It sounds like it's fulfilling. You're making a difference in your clients' lives. I mean, these are people who don't know where to turn, right? They need someone like you. And that's why you mentioned you'd even do it pro bono. There's probably a sense of community that you're getting from this. A lot of my high achievers, though, Scott, and especially folks who run a business, they need that mental stimulation. And so, sometimes the work provides mental stimulation in a way that pickleball couldn't or traveling couldn't. Is there anything I'm missing, though, that you think work provides you other than money and financial security that I didn't mention?
And yeah, I think that's a big part of it. This is stimulating for me. It keeps me going. I'm happy to be doing what I am doing. Now, don't get me wrong, I have problem clients too, and I just as soon not deal with them. But I'm at the point where I can kind of feel them out, have a good idea if this is going to be an issue down the road, because sometimes it's a fight with my client to get them to do the right thing. So I can pick and choose those a little more. Occasionally they slip through the cracks, and I have to deal with clients that I'd prefer not to, but that's just part of the deal.
One of the things that's interesting, there's a lot of blue zone research, and they talk about how important community is. Where do you find community today in your own life? Because you're working at home. So if not from your clients, where would you find that if work went away?
Oh, we've got lots of friends in our area. We're in a dedicated 55 and older neighborhood, and there's just always something going on. There's planned activities, there's unplanned activities. We have just lots of friends in the area that we do things with.
I just had a client move to a 55 and up community, and he said the exact same thing. He said, Nick, there are so many activities. He said, this guy that I live next door to is like a champion professional cornhole player. So he's like, I'm playing a lot more cornhole now as a result of it.
Yeah, there's always something going on. We weren't real sure if we haven't been here that long, less than a year. We weren't real sure if this was going to be for us, but we love it. We really settled in and enjoying being here.
Would you recommend that to other people who are thinking about slowing down or making a transition to what we call their third act of life? Would you recommend these 55 and up communities?
It's probably not for everybody, but we find that we enjoy it. But yeah, absolutely would recommend it.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm curious, in just looking through here real quick. Um, gosh, one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is how has your identity been tied to your profession today, and how do you anticipate this changing in retirement?
Oh, I don't think my identity is completely tied to this. I have so many other outside interests. I just enjoy what I'm doing here, but it's not really my identity. It's
Mm-hmm.
fulfilling. I get lots of gratitude from my clients when we get things worked out from them. It's basically a financial relief that they've been burden they've been carrying for a long time. If I can help them out, and it's becomes a big relief. So I get some gratitude from my clients for that, but lots of other interests that it doesn't really make it my identity, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So in this 55 and up retirement community that you're in, it sounds like there's probably folks who are still working, but there's also folks who have made the transition to retirement. For the folks who have made the transition to retirement, how has that been for them? Have you asked questions and
Yeah, that's actually interesting because we do have some friends that are actually younger than us, in their late 50s, and they're retired. They put a lot more effort into finding things to do so that they're not bored.
mm,
Than I think it more so than some of the older people that are retired, that are just kind of in their groove and happy to be working at a slower pace or just enjoying life. The younger retirees seem to be working harder at finding things to do and staying busy, so they won't get bored.
mm, why did they retire?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think they were probably out. Actually, I know one was completely tired of working at her job, and then and another husband, probably the same situation. They weren't getting enjoyment out of it.
Hmm. And how are they spending their time today? You said they're constantly looking for things to do, right? So that they're not bored. What are those activities?
Oh, just things around the city here in San Antonio. There's always something going on. There's always something to do, sights to see. Um, and many of us are new to this area. So these folks in particular are just trying to hit all the sites that they can in the area.
Have they hit all the restaurants yet in San Antonio?
That's the great thing about San Antonio. I don't think that you can ever do that. Yeah.
I love you guys have a place down there called Lupe Tortilla, and it's a chain, but gosh, it's amazing. They have some of the best tortillas. Have you been there?
I haven't, but finding great Mexican food is not a problem around here.
Yeah, yeah. It's so good down there. I love it.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm curious, what are you doing to prepare for this next chapter of life as you transition? I'd say you're in your second act of life and you're priming for your third act of life. Um, and really just to give you some context there, your first act of life is all about learning. Second act is about growing, building, accumulating. And third act, I think, is finding fresh identity and purpose. And so I think you're right on the cusp of that second and third. Um, what conversations or resources or thoughts have you had as you're making this transition?
I really haven't given a whole lot of thought to it. Just
Hmm.
pretty much had my head down, dealing with just day-to-day situations, um, and haven't given a whole lot of thought to what am I going to do, as that time comes. As I said, I can see myself continuing this into my 70s, as long as my
Hmm.
health holds up. So
Hmm.
I don't anticipate personally for me any big changes in the near future.
Yeah, yeah. That makes sense. I know that I have some clients where it was really emotionally difficult because they had like I have a CEO, for instance, that I'm thinking of a publicly traded company, and 64 years old, really wanted to go out with a win in his career, and probably would have worked, a few more years beyond 64. And the company let him know, hey, we October will be your last day with us, right? So that the company chose to part ways. That was really emotionally difficult because he didn't get to plan for it. Had never really thought about what this next act of life is, and so that's something he's having to think about now, as this transition has happened. So I
Right.
find too sometimes business owners don't always think about this because to your point, right? You have this business, you can decide how much work you take on, how little work you do, right? You have a lot of autonomy in your schedule. But let's say for whatever reason you couldn't do what you're doing today next month. How might that impact you?
Oh, I guess, yeah, that's the good thing is nobody's going to let me go.
Yeah.
I'm the guy. Um, if I couldn't do what I'm doing now, I don't, it wouldn't it wouldn't crush me. If there was something
Hmm.
beyond my control that says, Scott, you can't do this anymore. Maybe regulations change and there's all of a sudden special licensing or accreditations needed for what I'm doing. I'd hang it up and walk
Yeah.
away and still be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And then where do you think you would spend your time to find that mental stimulation or to find the purpose that work is giving you, or maybe the satisfaction you get from a delighted client?
Yeah, that's a good question. We see my wife and I see maybe a little more travel in our future.
Yeah.
See the world and just experience some different places and people.
Yep. Yep. That makes perfect sense. Where would you go if you could
Oh,
travel
geez.
a bit more?
Oh, I know we've got a Europe trip in the back of our head. I think at some point here in the not too distant future. So start in that direction and just bop around from there.
Have you been to Europe before?
Well, yeah, I have not. She has. So she's eager to get back.
Oh, you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
Once you go, you're gonna set up a few more trips. Italy is always a winner. That we actually got married in Italy, and
Oh, great.
Greece is yeah, Greece is a ton of fun. But we're gonna be
Yeah.
going to Ireland ourselves this summer, so we're
Would
looking
love
forward
to
to
do
that.
that. Yeah, would love to do that.
Yeah, we've started mapping out. Okay, where does Dallas Fort Worth fly direct, and that's those are the places we want to go check out. So
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
Ireland is one of those places that has a direct flight. So I'm curious, Scott, I have one last question for you. But as you look back on your career, is there anything that you would have done differently?
Yeah, absolutely. I started off in banking in the 80s and suffered through the S&L meltdown and massive layoffs. So yeah, I think a little more thought into a career plan as opposed to just a job starting off in life. That might have been something, but it all worked out, and I ended up with what I'm doing now, and haven't looked back. It's been good.
Well, Scott, this has been a lot of fun visiting with you today. It's always good visiting with a fellow Texan, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
All right, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
All right, take care, sir. Bye.
Okay.